Australia, the Wallabies, season review for 2025, folks. It was a bit of a tough one, it feels. But honestly, if you look at the world rankings, it doesn't seem that bad. They had their moments, and it feels like Ellis Park can numb some of the pain. But there was certainly a bit of a tough finish to the season for the Wallabies. We'll go through the record of the year that was, plus some of the kind of high and low lights from that season. You guys can let me know your thoughts on how you think the squad went, and we will talk about what may be the Wallabies' kind of key weakness stats-wise, which I have mentioned a few times, but we'll go over it here as well. They started the year 7th in the world on the rankings, potentially looking at getting themselves into the top 6 ahead of the World Cup draw, which they were in ever so briefly, but they ended up finishing 8th, so actually finished further away from the world rankings top 6 spots than they would have liked, but they didn't really lose anything in the world rankings. They went from 81.53 to 81.52, so kind of treading water. They gained a heck of a lot with the Ellis Park win, and then mostly bled that away throughout the rest of the year. The campaign opened with that kind of warm-up match ahead of the Lions tour against Fiji, which showed a bit of fortitude to kind of grind their way back to a 21-18 win. And Fiji have shown they could be a very tough customer this year when they've given other teams trouble, and they beat Scotland over in Fiji. So that was a good result in terms of the mentality, if not like free-flowing rugby, because it's first game of the year. But they lost Lolesio, which I feel like is a pretty big price to pay for this season. Like, I know Lolesio's got his detractors, but he has been Joe Schmidt's first choice 10 for the Wallabies, at least in 2024 when he took over. And then to lose him meant there was a bit of chaos at 10, with other guys going down as well. It only kind of got worse. Then the Lions tour itself arrives. They lose the first one 27-19, lose the second one a bit controversially 29-26. I would have loved the Wallabies to win that one, because they only would have had a grandstand finish for the final third test, but it ends up being a dead rubber. But at least the Wallabies do save a bit of face with that 22-12 win there. So it's not the smashing that everybody said the Wallabies were going to get at the end of the 2023 World Cup. When Eddie had the side at kind of a low point, everyone was saying how it was just going to be a doddle for the Lions. It didn't end up being that. It ended up being a competitive enough series. But as I said, it's just a shame that it wasn't 1-1 going into the final week. So do you give the Wallabies a pass for that one? Really would have been nice for them to win the series, but they were competitive. Then we get to the Rugby Championship, and you get the absolute high point of the season, Ellis Park. Only 2 teams beat South Africa this year, the All Blacks and the Wallabies. The All Blacks ground one out over a pretty error-prone box side at Eden Park, which is the All Blacks' fortress, but the Wallabies did it at Ellis Park. And I know the South African fans bemoaned the error rate of their side in that game too, but geez, you got to give the Wallabies credit, man. They were down. It was like 22-0. To win 38-22 was an absolute awesome, fantastic, astronomical result, and maybe gave people kind of a false impression of where the Wallabies were at, because I know the New Zealand pundits after that result really started talking up Australia, how this could be the year, Schmidt's going to get everything right. It started to go downhill from here. That's your high point. Definitely a high point. Lose to South Africa in the second match, which is still competitive, 30 points to 22, but the injury toll also starts to mount. You've already lost Lolesio. You lose Tom Wright as well, who's been another regular Joe Schmidt pick. He's gone. So, yeah, win and loss against South Africa, and then a win and loss against Argentina. That series was a little bit controversial as well, but the Wallabies won the first one with that really kind of like mental fortitude play, kind of like the Fiji game, to come back, down at the death and win it like well into the clock, into the red. So it's a drawn series with the Pumas, and then 2 losses against the All Blacks and the Bledisloe. Competitive enough for a while, but not really a threat to the Bledisloe in the end. So finishing last in the Rugby Championship kind of sucks, but there's still that high point of Ellis Park that you're looking back on thinking, wow, that was great, wasn't it? Then you get the kind of disastrous end of year tour. They have the game against Japan first, where Schmidt rests most of the big guns because they've had a pretty long campaign, and the Aussies, if I'm not mistaken, played more tests than anybody else this year. So they grind out another win in the rain over Japan, 19 points to 15. It's a bit ugly in October. But the resting of the big guns didn't help because they lose to England 25-7, lose to Italy 26-19, which is the one that they were kind of supposed to win, lose to Ireland 46-19, lose to France 48-33. So not an ideal way to finish the year. The France one was entertaining. The Wallabies led a couple of times, so they had their moments, but it was a bit of a disaster in the end of the November tour. Stats. There is one stat that continues to trouble me for the Wallabies, and it is the run meters per carry, which is a genuinely, it's a blunt tool, but you can look at it to measure which sides are getting good go forward ball. And the Wallabies all year have been down on those numbers. 4 is kind of a gold standard as like you're really getting some great go forward. But that's been a hard one for most teams to attain in the 2025 season. Most teams are like, the top teams are like 3.7, 3.8, 3.9. I think England's over 4. Most teams are below 4. The Wallabies are closer to 3 because they're at 3.1. There's been a number of games where it's been 2 something. So that just shows a lack of penetration, a lack of go forward. Like, these guys are industrious. Harry Wilson carrying for days. Valentini's not been able to get that same kind of punch. So that is a big one for Les Kiss to have a look at. As for the squad, I mean, the biggest deal has been 10. You lost Lolosio. You had Liner, you lost him. You had James O'Connor called back from kind of semi-retirement from Wallabies rugby. You had Carter Gordon back from rugby league. You had Tane Edmed as your like 4th or 5th choice guy leading the show. You had Ben Donaldson who fell out of favour. Geez, it was a merry-go-round at number 10, which doesn't help you get any consistency. But they beat the world champs away. So how do you judge this season? I think you can probably give the Wallabies like a C-. You can give them the barest of passes because the injury toll at 10, I think, in particular. Like, you lost the Lions series, you went none from 4 in November, you scraped past Japan. There's some pretty ugly results here. Didn't get close to the Bledisloe, but beat the world champs away. That's a highlight. The Lions series was at least competitive. Could have been worse. If they have Lawless here this whole campaign and with the same results, you probably give them a D. But I don't know that any team in the world can manage like that many injuries. Like the All Blacks, could they have Bowden Barrett go down, D-Mac go down, Richie Moore come back and then go down, and then we're relying on our 4th or 5th choice 10? I don't know. Even the Box, if they lost Pollard and Libok and Sasha Fambungomzulu and then whoever the next cab off the rank was and then had to rely on the next guy, it's going to affect them. Anyone's going to be affected by that many injuries at 10. You guys let me know your thoughts. Should I be failing the Wallabies based on that season? Or do you think a scraping through pass is the right result for them? Fingers crossed the injury toll is not quite so bad in 2026. But yes, this video is recorded in advance, so hopefully there's been nothing too earth-shattering in Wallabies news between now and when this video goes up, because it's late 2025 as I record this. I'm about to head off on holiday with my mum and my family. So this is me keeping in touch with you. I'll read the comments when I get back. Leave them there. I will talk to you guys again soon, I guess. Subscribe to the channel. Take care, and see you guys later. Bye-bye.